I just was thinking about what to talk about and how to cover, shed some light on the Olympics and scandal and corruption. And I just kind of want to have a jumping off point, why are the Olympics so complicated? The Olympics are a very complicated endeavor, and I think it'd be hopefully interesting to talk about why and how, and brings my own experience from Rio to that question. So bear with me as I kind of go through some, not totally stream of conscience, but some kind of thoughts along the way. So when I was in December, I went down to Rio to kind of do a scouting mission. I knew I'd be covering the games in August, and it was kind of get a lay of the land type of thing. Now, the interesting thing about Rio, and what all cities, the Olympic bidding process is the host city is named 7 years before the actual Olympics start. And that, poses potential complications that we really saw with Brazil. In 2009, Brazil was on the upswing. It seemed the country was flush with oil, seemed to avoid some of the pain that spread during the Great Recession here and elsewhere. And it was the first South American country ever to be awarded Olympic Games, and it was a huge amount of symbolism and pride. And then, of course, over the next 7 years, I should say, of course, what happened is that Brazil has had terrible economic issues, political issues, impeachment trials, and social unrest. And so now the stage for the Rio Olympics was a city that is ravaged with extreme poverty, a place where it's one of the most beautiful places in the world, but where there's up on hills, just thinking about it in the sense of it, there's just these called favelas. They're the folks in the favelas and the advocates for favelas don't like the word slums, and for understandable reason, but it's what you would think as just the worst kind of, no running water, bad infrastructure. Cops have come in and tried to control drug gangs, and that's led to violence. So places that need public resources, now public resources are being diverted to the Olympics. And what I saw in December was I visited the Bio Autodromo, which was a favela right next to the Olympic Park. And when I went there in December, they had already displaced the residents and moved them to places, in a lot of places they didn't want to move to. 4,200 families in Rio were displaced because of Olympic-related construction and infrastructure. And so, we did a story, and just seeing it live, the place looked like war-torn rubble, but people still wanted to stay. And in December, there was, why would you want to live in these places? And the government saying they're going to provide you housing, but there was such pride in their homes, and the sincerity of it, and you can see protest language in Portuguese, Olympics exclusion, Olympics aren't for everyone, that type of thing. And the pain and the injustice that they felt was real. And so it was a little, searing coming back in August and picturing where was this favela again? And at the end of the day, there was slivers of it, but I don't believe anybody was living there. But it was gone. It was basically, as I think, the kind of parking lot where the media transportation was. So that kind of gets to the complication. As somebody who loves being at the Olympics and reporting about the Olympics, there's all this kind of back stuff going on. Is it hypocritical to publicize the Olympics or to be a fan? And sports, sports gets to that all over. Whether you're rooting for, football, where people are putting, brain injury, and college sports. So we think the players should probably be paid. But we're going to watch the Final Four anyway. So what makes you believe in the value of the Olympics? So you just, being on the ground, just some of the sites And these are storylines we all kind of saw. Was, when you watch Usain Bolt run, it's a very moving experience, both on TV, as millions of people saw, and being in a stadium with Usain Bolt, it's basically like a Mandela-like figure with the worship of fans of a global athletic figure. It's fascinating. I mean, it was Bolt, 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 and as if he was Ali. And this is just a guy who runs fast and is very charismatic. And you see what athletes mean to people around the world. These weren't just folks from Jamaica, these were folks from all over the world, particularly in Brazil. They really adopted him as one of their own. And Grant can speak to this. We were both lucky, in my mind, sure. So come on now. Would say lucky to be in the Maracana Stadium when Brazil won its first ever soccer gold medal. And the beauty of that experience was, it meant so much to the country because they played Germany in the final, and Germany in the 2014 World Cup beat Brazil 7-1 in the semifinal. Humiliated them, absolutely humiliated. So it was perfect that this small sliver of revenge, because I spoke to a lot of fans and a lot of them said, well, this doesn't really totally make up for the World Cup if we beat Germany today, but hey, we'll take it. And then the most brilliant player in Brazil, the face of the games for the country, Neymar, global soccer superstar, plays for Barcelona, and made a decision to play for his home country when he really didn't have to. Most play, the Olympic soccer tournament's a little different. It's 23 and under, except you get 3 exceptions, and most global stars skipped it, but Neymar was there. And because he felt, and he wasn't in, and he got hurt for the semifinals, so I'm sure Brazilians think it might have been a little different if he was there in the World Cup semi. So, and then he scores one of the most, I'll say it, I've ever seen, and you've seen a lot more goals than me, but just a beautiful goal in the first half. Germany ties it, and then there's a penalty shootout, and the goaltender the goalie for Brazil makes a brilliant save on it was the last shot, right? The fifth shot, last round. And then who gets to make the winning penalty shot for Brazil? Freaking Neymar. And he gets to the ball, he does a little stutter step, and it goes in, and there was just this amazing explosion. And what stands out for me, I'll never forget, I just count myself lucky to be a part of this and see part of this, and maybe hopefully convey some of this, was the subway ride home from that event. First of all, Brazil has beautiful subways, and it's amazing how, again, just a city making prioritizing different things. It was a beautiful subway, and the whole, just being a stranger there, and people kind of knew I wasn't Brazilian. I was kind of the only non-Brazilian on the subway, but you felt so safe and so happy. And it was, the subway was literally shaking because the Brazilians were chanting and singing about Maradona. They basically, when the Brazilians win something, they decide to rip apart their rival Argentina. It's just how they kind of celebrate. So I don't really know what they were saying, but I kept saying Maradona, Maradona. I kept hearing it. You just know they weren't saying nice things about Maradona. And then, so that's why we love the Olympics. Now, a few points about and I'll run through a little quickly about, what the cost of the Olympics. And there's no secret that cities that win the Olympics, it tends to hurt them economically more than help them. Just a few quick examples. The average cost overrun, this study was done before Brazil. 200% is the average cost overrun, for the Olympics. During the Beijing Olympics, everybody says it's an economic jolt. Hotel stays dropped actually 39% compared to the prior year. Where people don't realize the economics of big sporting events is that you're substituting crowds. I mean, there's lots of crowds, but there's also a substitution effect. And the spillover effect, it's hard to replicate the Olympic experience in Rio repeatedly. It's a two-week thing. And then it's not like, oh, I went to Rio for the Olympics and you can't say you should do that too. I mean, Rio might be not the greatest example because there's plenty of reasons to go to Rio, and there's big parties there and stuff. But that's an interesting kind of, and Rio had cost overruns of 51%. 11, I've seen different estimates, but $11 billion I've seen in one estimate of public money going towards Olympic-related projects in a city that was under a financial state of emergency. And some of the projects that were done for the Olympics was, for example, a subway line that went from basically the tourist area of Rio to a place near the Olympic Park in an upscale neighborhood of Rio. And you couldn't help but wonder, what good is that going to do long term? It costs billions of dollars, basically to get tourists from Olympic tourists out to the Olympic Park, bypassing all kinds of the favelas where they can use some running water. But you just see it in the kind of dichotomy there. But machine guns that were there to keep people safe, drains on resources, just kind of make you wonder about the future of this. And I just want to touch real quick on the doping wars that have unfolded. And that's more the spectator point of view. Who do you trust, and what's going on? Now we have this global battle with Russia. Russia just, came out yesterday, the New York Times reported that Serena Williams and Simone Biles' medical records were hacked, and they took banned substances with permission, so they didn't really do it. It doesn't seem like they did anything wrong. And Lily King, the U.S. swimmer, kind of saying Russia shouldn't be here. Russia had state-sponsored doping, and still most of their team was able to compete. Interesting, a lot of people were mad about that. I went to the Village at one point, trying to get the athlete reaction, and a lot of them said, unless they're proven dirty, they should compete. And so fans tend to get more upset about them, and politicians maybe than the competition even. And so, who do you trust? Geopolitical conflict, and just really, I'll end on just a look for the future. Where's the Olympic movement going? Now, cities are getting wise to the cost of the Olympics. We've had recent winter games, cities back out. Boston backed out after public opinion turned. Winter Olympics are a little tougher sell. Sochi, spent $14 billion, the most expensive, at least Winter Olympics ever, and the final two were Beijing and what's the city in Kazakhstan again? Almaty. So that was the final two. The 2022 Winter Olympics went to Beijing. So the 2024 Olympics, Los Angeles, which is one of the rare profitable Olympic games, they're bidding. It'll be interesting to see if they get, so the 2024 bidding, it's Rome, Paris, Los Angeles. So we're not seeing in the summer games yet world-class cities saying we don't want this, but we've seen it in the winter. Are we going to start seeing it for the summer? And where is this thing going in the next few decades as the costs of the Olympics are more transparent and apparent? Thank you.